Harsh, Harsh,
Good
can you
afternoon.
hear us?
Yes, sir,
Can
I
you,
can hear you now.
you can see our video and can you hear us clearly?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay. So Harsh, you are originally from Bihar.
Yes, sir.
Right now you are your address you had given at Gurgaon.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me just start with this question. Supposing if and when you get selected in the civil services and you get into IAS, and supposing you get Bihar cadre, okay. Now tell me, how will you like to improve the economic backwardness which is very much there in Bihar vis-a-vis other states in the country?
So the main problem for economic backwardness of Bihar is the state of deindustrialization, which has been happening for almost 30 years now. So my first step would be to reduce the cases of deindustrialization that are happening at one hand and increase and set up help set up new industries on the other hand.
Okay.
The major problem I see with deindustrialization is because these industries which are happening, and in case they have something related to government, they are, say, vendors for government. In all such cases, the payment for their procurements are done quite late. And this, for example, has done with the Samastipur sugar factory, which I happen to know about. And then the second set of problems is regarding the license. The Ashok mills that was supposed to start in 1980s have still not been set up in Darbhanga district. So there are these cases which stop the create a sense of deindustrialization. Now, for industrialization, what I think is Bihar is mainly agroeconomy based, and there is a lot of scope for development of agriculture sector, especially food processing industries. For example, the Gulab Bagh area of Purnia has the biggest maize market in the entire Asia. So these certain advantages can be leveraged.
Okay. All right. Now you have mentioned that you are one of your hobbies is to mentor uh, people, isn't it? You have
Uh,
mentioned mentoring.
so that's part of a positions of responsibility that I held at
Yeah,
IIT
mentor of
Kharagpur.
a okay student welfare group. Can you
Yes,
tell
sir.
me what is the difference between mentoring and coaching?
So the difference lies in spoon feeding. Mentoring is to give a sense of direction to people who are putting efforts of their own. Whereas the sense coaching has a certain negative connotation that denotes there is certain amount of spoon feeding involved.
Anything else? Mentoring and coaching. Anything else? Any other difference?
So one other thing I can think of is mentoring is more on a personal individual basis, whereas coaching is usually corporatized.
Okay. So one other thing which a word which I was wanting to hear from you is mentoring is more of hand holding, you see,
Yes,
and
sir.
there is an empathy involved therein.
Yes, sir.
So coaching is, more of a rigorous routine kind of thing, and everything into structure, you see. So that is the difference.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me, you were from 2017 to 18, you worked in Gurgaon, Deloitte Consulting India,
Yes, sir.
and you were getting a salary more than 1 lakh per month,
Yes, sir.
and then became manager from 2019 to date. Salary is just 60,000 rupees.
Yes,
So
sir.
why did you choose to go to Calcutta and not continue at Gurgaon where you were getting a much better salary?
Sir, the second office, it's not actually in Kolkata. The head office is in Kolkata, but it has also a branch in Gurgaon where I'm presently located. And
Okay.
for the money factor, sir, I do not feel that money is a constraint for me. It is only a means to an end for me. And in this particular case, why I made this particular switch was the second company happens to be a startup, whereas the first one is a big MNC. So I wanted to get the feel of working in a startup for some time before I get more experience.
So my last question to you.
Yes, sir.
Since you're done your BTech in electronics and electrical communication engineering, so let me just ask, what do you understand by 4 nines, 5 nines, and 3 nines? Can you tell me? Have you heard about 4 nines, 3 nines, 5 nines?
4-9,
Yes.
3-9, 5-9.
Yeah. Even 2 nines. What does it indicate?
Uh, um, and sir, is it related to electronics per
It is
se?
regarding to electrical power.
Electrical power. Acha. Sir,
Okay.
I frankly do not know about this. Electronics is very different from electrical. So if it is
Yes.
directly related to electrical, I might not know about it.
Okay, no problem. Lastly, just related to that,
Yes,
the air conditioners, are measured, the capacity is measured in the tons.
yes, sir.
Why? I mean, normally things are measured in watts and kilowatts, but ACs are measured in the capacities in tons. Why?
Uh, that's a very, very interesting question. I've not thought about it, but if I can take a guess,
Yeah, go ahead.
sir, I think that what AC does is the main purpose of AC is to go against the second law of thermodynamics, which is
Mm,
to take temperature from somewhat where it is cooler to take out the temperature to the heat to somewhere where it is hotter, which is in our case outside the room. So I think
mm.
tonnage is to denote how much the capacity of how much air it can let go from the two units that are present in all ACs. So
Okay, you can go back and
1.5,
study it. Yeah,
yes,
it
sir.
is related to ice formation. How much ice, can be created. So that is the related to this ice. Okay, no
Sir,
problem.
I'll read up
Yeah,
more on this. This seems interesting.
yeah. Thank you, Mr. Dagar.
Thank you, sir.
First, tell me, uh, inspirational Hindi poetry is one of your hobbies.
Yes, sir.
I will, give you two lines. Then you have to tell actually who the poet is and what is the context and
Okay.
how actually it inspired the masses
Okay,
in
sir.
India.
So I'll give my best on this.
सिंहासन खाली करो कि जनता आती है. सिंहासन खाली करो कि जनता आती है.
Uh, sir, I think I've read this. Is it by Ramdhari Singh Dinkar?
Yes, correct.
Yes,
And
sir.
now it was used by whom actually to inspire the Indian masses and when? And this became very popular slogan
Yes, sir.
in India. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, I do not know the exact context, but from what I know about Dinkar Sahab's life history,
No.
he called.
You need not go. You need not go to Dinkar Sahab now. Now it is
Yes,
about actually how it inspired the masses in India. What was the context and who used actually these lines to inspire Indian masses?
Sir, again,
Okay.
I'll have to, sir, if I can take a guess here.
Yeah, please. Yeah, yes,
So
sure.
it would probably be related to the period of 1975 to 1977, the era of
Yes, you are in
emergency.
right direction. Yeah.
So, sir, that era was marked by a lot of movement. The most notable was the Students' Andolan or Total Revolution by JP. I think this could have been used in that context to unseat the government that is seen to doing a wrong set of presidents.
Yes, it was used by Jayaprakash Narayan. So tell me, why you are so good in poetry? Why you want to come to civil service?
Sir, my father is a professor of Hindi literature, and though he has done a lot of good, I feel that he could have done very good if he would have chosen the path of civil servants. He actually did very. We actually come from a very small background, from a small village called Saharsa, and he went to JNU,
What
and then he wanted.
motivates you? What motivates you to join civil service?
Sir, my primary motivation came after I read this book by Shiv Shankar Menon, Choices. It was mostly about how India has made choices in its foreign policy decisions, and that primarily attracted me to how foreign policy and geopolitics is conducted. But as I ventured far into this, I saw a lot of good changes. Many civil servants. There is a website called The Better India.
What civil service will give you, which you will not get elsewhere?
Sir, I think there is no comparison between the job at a corporate sector, which I would be in if I do not join a civil service. There is no comparison. In the best I have done at the corporate job was to sell more ketchup.
You have to tell only about civil service. You have to tell only about civil service. What opportunities it will offer to you, which are not otherwise available in other sectors.
So the diversity of work, it's unparalleled. If any other job will not provide the diversity that a civil servant gets exposure to throughout his 20-30 years of career.
Yeah, what else?
So the second is job satisfaction. In technological jobs or corporate jobs, there is a certain amount of alienation.
So can you tell me what is job satisfaction? How you will define the job satisfaction? Give me one example which can convey it in a very simple term, that this is what job satisfaction is.
Sir, what I think of myself as being 60, when I turn 60, if I am there, I would feel that I had the job satisfaction that I needed. It's there. Job satisfaction can only come from when you are connected with what you wanted to be. And in most cases, it is connection to the people around you. When you are limited,
you give me example. There are two persons. They both are going to office.
Yes, sir.
One has great job satisfaction, while we say the other is not having job satisfaction. What is the difference?
So the first person does not consider the job to be a part of his life. That the job and life, they do not, differ very much in the 9 to 5 division. For the second person who does not have the job satisfaction, he just wants the clock to turn 5 and run away.
But what will be the parameter? How you will decide that yes, you have the job satisfaction?
Sir, we all desire certain qualities in us. And if your job provides you an opportunity to develop those particular qualities, for example, if I take my own example, what I would want is to be, very articulate and become very communicative.
Okay, we leave it. We come to the third question. Job satisfaction is when in the morning you are keen to go to office for your work. When there is urge to go to office, means you have job satisfaction in that work. Okay, now tell me, have you heard about the institution called district magistrate?
Yes, sir. Of course.
What is there actually? When you say district magistrate, what is the magistrate? What is the meaning of magistrate? How he is magistrate? How we can say that he is magistrate of the district?
Sir, every district has certain requirements, certain administrative functions that are to be performed. The magistrate in this particular case, for that particular district, perform all those administrative tasks, which may include a direct interaction with the people, being a conduit for provision of the government benefits of a welfare state to all those people.
These are the actually administrative functions of district collector. I am asking about the magistrate. Why we call him district magistrate?
So it seems to me that magistrate word is derived from majesty, and majesty.
Majesty.
Yes, sir.
Majesty.
Majesty. Magistrate.
What is the meaning of magistrate? Tell me, what is the meaning of magistrate?
Sir, I will not be.
Okay, you have to study. Now tell me the last question.
Sir.
You are the Secretary of Department of Women. What are the gaps in the welfare of women which you would like to introduce? Tell me 1, 2, 3. What gaps you will find in the existing schemes, in the existing institutional and legal mechanism, which you find that there is a scope for improvement? Tell me 3 areas.
Yes, sir. So give me 1 second to gather all those because there are a number of areas which can be worked upon. Sir, the first and foremost for me would be women health, because 50% of women in India are anemic. The main reason for this is because while there are a number of food providing schemes that are being run for TPDS and PDS, they tend to ignore the special
So,
nutritional
do
requirements
you
of
think
women.
there is no scheme? Do you think there is no
There are
existing scheme?
schemes. So there are schemes, but
No,
there
no,
are
I'm asking actually where you feel that there are gaps. There is lot is to be done. If there is a scheme, then what else you find missing?
so the
There are a number of
implementation.
schemes.
So the implementation of these schemes.
Yes, the effective implementation can be one. Then what else?
The second would be the knowledge among the beneficiaries, the women themselves. Because even for PM Asha and for the
Yeah,
Anganwadi
yeah.
schemes.
Yeah, creating awareness about these schemes. Yes. Then.
And so the third would be something called gender budgeting, which although being done.
No, there are already schemes actually. There are already schemes for them. Okay, thank you. Good.
So,
yeah, tell me. Yeah.
So the number third would be to ensure that the male counterparts in all these schemes are brought into the implementation.
Would you not assess and take feedback upon the impact of those schemes?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
so the
thank
ground
you.
realities.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Gauri Shankar ji.
Harsh, can you name three educational institutions in ancient India located in the state of Bihar?
Yes, sir. The first and foremost will be Nalanda University. The second will be Vikramshila University, which is in Bhagalpur. And there is the third, I think it's called Saket University. Or maybe I'm missing on the third one.
Okay. Now, you are, for example, sitting in a position of a judge.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Somebody brings a thief to you who went to the market and, did some, he picked up certain things from a store without paying anything there. So they brought to you that this is the guy who has stolen all this stuff from me. The guy comes and tells you that, listen, I have lost my job. My family is hungry. I've brought a few food items to feed them. So what will you do? What will be your reaction?
Sir, the first principle to be recognized here is that the person has stolen, and that would remain a fact irrespective of what the causes behind may have been, because there are a number of people who might have been facing similar or even worse situations than this particular person was facing. The second would be that there is also a part of failure on the side of administration who could not provide him with the necessary provisions, even though there are multiple schemes already running for it. So again, the question of implementation by administration comes in. And the third would be to ensure that in future these, what is called reformative justice. So to ensure that in future, this person has adequate provisions to supply not only for himself, but also for his family. Now, what a judiciary can do in these to integrate these three very different and contrasting principles would be to, first of all, ensure that the benefits of the welfare state that were supposed to reach this person do reach him. And this would include the provision of food, medicine.
No, but as a judge, you will not go into all these things because you have to deliver justice. At that time, what would be your decision? These are administrative issues which will be looked after by the executive.
Yes, sir. So justice might be holistic, but if I have to limit myself strictly to what a judge can do, I will send him off with a reprimand, but also the reprimand would be for him to work in those particular areas or say community service to ensure that he understands that stealing from somebody would be how hampering that would be to the person from which the things were stolen.
Okay. So you will allow him to leave with a reprimand.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Into the community service.
Okay. Now, can you tell me 5 important principles of good governance?
Yes, sir. I'll use here from the World Bank had given out a document in 2001, aspects of good governance. So I'll use some principles from there. The first is participatory. The second is compassionate. The third is transparent. Fourth would be responsive. And fifth would be efficient.
Okay. Now tell me, under the Constitution of India, the President of India normally acts under the advice of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. But there are some occasions when the President can exercise enormous power on his own.
Yes, sir. Yes,
What
sir.
are those occasions?
Sir, the first and foremost would be the decision to use his veto power, which would be in case of something called pocket veto, where he will not sign a bill until it will not be implemented as a law. The second would be a case where there is a hung, the output of the general elections is hung, and he has, although there are precedents set, but there are certain amount of liberties in deciding who will be invited to form the next government.
And what are the principles governing such situations?
Sir, these have been laid down in the Bommai case. The first would be he invites the party which has, even if they have not got a 50% benchmark, the biggest winning party, the party with the maximum number of seats. Second would be coalitions which have been formed prior to the general elections, which may qualify beyond the 50% mark. The third would be coalitions that might have formed after the general elections were happened and the coalitions formed afterwards.
Okay, now you are working as manager in Jivanta Analytics, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What is your job there?
Sir, my profile is data science.
What do you mean by that?
The data science profile essentially means that for clients, we have a number of clients in US and India. These clients may have a lot of data with them from which they need to derive certain meaningful insights. These insights could be helpful in maybe understanding their own business, or maybe in increasing their customer outreach, or increasing the sell of their products. So my job is to ensure that we have their data in the correct form and we can extract the most meaningful insights from them.
Okay, now there are a lot of laws and people are talking about data privacy.
Yes, sir.
There are, demands that these social media, systems, they are misusing our data. So what is your view on that?
So the data privacy has certainly been a big issue, because the biggest problem is that people who own the data, or the so-called data principals, they are not getting any benefit of those who are using those data and processing and storing that data, who are called data fiduciaries. Now, privacy is a problem because when I access a certain website, there are problems. I am given certain options, but they're not effective options. I have to accept all cookies, or I'll not be able to access their services such as Facebook. On one hand, this may lead to monetization of data by private organizations, which will be a problem. We all receive calls, numerous calls and emails which are not wanted. But on the other hand, there are also problems with this drives innovation, data drives innovation, on which our entire fintech industry is based out of. The payment services such as Paytm and Amazon and all other such services. The third problem is of the cross-border sharing of data. Many of these companies, especially social.
I want to know, is it ethical on the part of these companies to use or misuse these private data collected through various systems they have put into place? And is your company also using those data for analyzing the worth of a particular customer in US or anywhere else?
So there are three types of data. The one which is called sensitive PII. Using that is non-ethical, which would be, say, what is my religious views and political views. But then there are certain collective data which the use of which is ethical. For example, if I derive information from a number of people in my neighborhood and it cannot pinpoint to a person, in that case, the use of data will be ethical. In particularly my case, what we are doing is we are also doing the digital marketing of a number of clients where we do not have access to their data, but we have access to the second type of data that I mentioned, which is anonymized and non-personalized and non-sensitive. That kind of data we do process.
Okay, thank you very much, Harsh. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Harish,
Thank you, sir.
Harsh, yes.
Sorry.
Harsh,
So,
Harsh, can you
sir,
hear me, Harsh?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now I can hear you properly. Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, good afternoon. Now, a while back, you said that you want to have an impactful career,
Yes, sir.
and that is why you're coming to civil service. And now, which service is more impactful, IFS or IAS?
So it would be, in a way to compare, these would be like comparing apples and oranges. It would be, for example, if we have to look from the perspective of a common man who who lives in India and sees everything every day, the IS will be more impactful. But if we see from a larger perspective of impacting not only the people of India, but say even the neighborhood of India or the rest of the world to which India interacts, IFS in that case would be more impactful.
Tell me how.
So the world has become like a single, what is called the result of globalized village. And whatever India does, it has economic relations with a number of countries. And how we conduct ourselves, all those countries to whom we have relations, they are impacted in many ways. We are impacted by their actions in these many ways equally. So whatever this IFS, the role of IFS would be to ensure that there is a win-win situation for both the people of both countries.
Okay, now India has a lot of problem with the companies which provide social media platforms.
Yes,
Even as we speak, WhatsApp and government are arguing or negotiating certain aspects. So why India did not have its own social media like WeChat, which China has, and has about more than 1 billion subscribers?
So the advantage China has, which India does not have, is we tend not to shield ourselves from such foreign-grown startups, either WhatsApp or Facebook. In China, they have restrictions on even the entry of these. They do not have Google. They do not have Facebook. They have something called Weibo, and there is another search app. So they have intentionally restricted the entry of such foreign companies.
Oh, okay. You may not intentionally restrict it, but don't you think having indigenous platforms would be advantageous from many perspectives? And the most is a data safety that you were discussing.
Yes, sir.
And India has capability. Don't you think India has a capability to develop such platforms?
So India has 50 unicorns, which have more than 1 billion valuation startups. It definitely has that capacity.
No. So can we not have a platform, whether it is because of restriction or because of our own interest? Could we not have developed our own Facebook or WhatsApp version of Indian platforms?
So
Why we
the
did
main-
not? I mean, the question is why we did not.
Yes, sir. So the main reason why we could not, we did not, we could have, we did not was we did not have the prime mover advantage, which is essential. What it means is who gets in there first makes the biggest buck. There are a number of competitors, and the one which came first created a certain sort of natural monopoly against competing against which became very difficult. Flipkart was able to grow only because Amazon came into India very later. But those Indian messaging chats, they developed very later already when WhatsApp had created that monopoly.
Okay. Now, tell me what is India's GDP in 2019?
Sir, it's around $2.5 trillion.
2.5 trillion. Is that GDP or nominal GDP?
Sir, it is nominal GDP.
It's a nominal GDP.
So in PPP terms, it is much higher.
In
PPP terms, purchasing power parity terms, we are
Okay.
the third largest. Yes, sir.
So have we crossed 5 trillion in that PPP norms?
Yes, sir.
We have crossed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you tell me after this pandemic, what India needs to do so that we are out of the pandemic slump of our economy.
Yes, sir. So, because of pandemic, there are a number of opportunities that I see arising, and the biggest of it has been a kind of avoidance of China, the anti-China sentiments that have developed throughout the world. But the biggest problem is that because of the second wave, especially after the second wave started, India is facing now those challenges which initially China had faced. So the things that we can do to move out of this particular situation would be, number one, to ensure that we use our leverage, the leverage we have in certain type of industries, and this would mostly come from the manufacturing sector. The food processing. So you wanted to say something?
No.
My misunderstanding. What I was saying is the biggest benefit that I see that India has is in terms of the food processing sector. India has already signed contracts with Saudi Arabia on a farm to port model, where the food we produce will be directly ported to Saudi Arabia, and we can sign these type of agreements wherever it is beneficial to India. In other cases too.
Okay, that's fine. Now, do you think we are ready? We have the capability and the ecosystem to take a part of the China share for the international market?
So that would vary according to the industry. In certain industries, we have the capacity, but in certain, for example, in electronics, we do not have the capacity to take over China. Okay. The certain industries where India can do so, for example, is the shipbuilding and shipwrecking industry, which India already had a monopoly, but it can take over the remaining from China. The second would be the fintech industries, where India has homegrown and well developed, but does not export those services to outside of India.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. Hi, Harsh. How are you?
I'm sir, very good. How are you?
Harsh, Gurugram was previously called Gurgaon.
Yes, sir.
Do you think the names of cities should be changed? Does that make any difference?
Sir, that again varies on the basis of which city are we talking about. For example, Kanpur was initially anglicized as Kanpur, but renamed as Kanpur in the Indian accent. And that was actually a legacy of the British nomenclature. And making that change was very powerful.
For example, Allahabad to Prayagraj, Madras to Chennai, Bombay to Mumbai, Gurgaon to Gurugram. What purpose does it solve?
Sir, Gurugram was the name changing of Gurugram happened because the demand came from people. And in many of these cases, the name change has been a demand of the people, in which case it makes sense. But there have been also cases of changing the name where it does not come from bottom up, but from top down. And in those cases,
How
it
are
is
the
not very
names of
user-friendly.
how are the names of cities changed?
So the city nomenclature is the prerogative of the state executive. And the first step is the cabinet makes that decision, and then it is sent to uh, the legislature, and then it is passed through a simple majority, after which it is signed by the governor, and the name is officially changed.
And if you
It
want
is
to
then
change the name of a state,
so that would be the prerogative of the central government, the central legislature. In that case, the union government, the union cabinet, or the council of ministers will make that decision. A simple majority will be required in the central legislature
do
and
you
signed
think
by
that's
the.
justified?
Sir, I think it's in a way it makes sense. The division of power in this particular case, it makes sense.
Okay. Now, Gurgaon or Noida or any of these areas are largely considered to be satellite towns,
Yes.
and there have been several reports of some infrastructural foundational problems in these satellite towns.
Yes,
What
sir.
are some of these problems in Gurugram, and why do you think they exist?
So these challenges, first of all, arise because of the very rapid nature of change that happened in these areas. Gurugram was a village 40, 50 years back, even 40 years back until 1980s. Uh, in Gurugram, some of these challenges would be extreme concretization without a planned development that would include certain green areas for all the citizens and even the ecology. Second foundational problem is that there are the development of slum in certain areas which do not have access to those necessary provisions of electricity and water. For example, in Gurugram, this is the U block, which is right behind the most developed part of Cyber Park of DLF Cyber Park of Gurugram. The third kind of problem which usually happens is because the change is very rapid, there is a certain duality in the perspective of people. There are people who still consider Gurugram a kind of village, and then there is the ultra modern, the metropolitan culture which has seeped in. So there is a usual clash of culture which happens in all these satellite areas.
Okay, thank you. You studied at the Scottish Public School.
Yes, sir.
Where is it?
Sir, in my hometown, Katihar.
What is so Scottish about the Scottish Public School?
So there is nothing Scottish, only except the legacy of the name. I think the reason why Scottish name was chosen was because the founder of my school, he was very impressed with the Bombay Scottish School, which is a very old and well-established school in Mumbai. So that's why he chose the name, but it does not have anything particularly Scottish about it.
Now, Scotland has recently undergone elections, if you are aware. What are the ramifications of the elections in Scotland?
Sir, I do not have a lot of information to make that reaction.
Do you watch entertainment on OTT platforms, Netflix or Amazon or Prime?
Yes, sir.
Now, your alma mater, IIT Kharagpur, was featured in a Netflix series called Alma Matters.
Yes, sir.
And in that, they have highlighted some very glaring issues about your institution. The very competitive sort of an environment, the issue of suicides, the issue of less women representation in student outfits. To what an extent, to how much of an extent do you think is this true?
Sir, although I have not watched it, I have heard reviews and I know what it is all about. And I feel that to a certain extent it justifies, but also exaggerates it in a manner to make it interesting for the general public. all those issues, especially about suicides, they happen. The very competitive nature, which is regarding GC or General Championship, which happen every year, they're very competitive, and I took part in them, and I can attest to that fact. The problem of women representation, I feel, was a little amount of exaggeration, because from whatever I've seen, I see that women, especially IIT, women in IIT, they are very active in almost all aspects. Be it sports, we had a general secretary who was a girl, and she was the general secretary of sports, breaking all those what are called glass barriers, glass ceiling barriers. So some of it is exaggerated.
Now, one of your hobbies is algorithmic coding.
Yes, sir.
What is non-algorithmic coding?
Sir, coding can be of many types. The focus of algorithmic coding is to emphasize more on the algorithm side of the to solve a problem. It's like solving a puzzle, and that puzzle has to be solved using an algorithm. The other kind of coding would be what you can call software development. That would be non-algorithmic because it does not try to tackle a puzzle, but rather do coding to tell machine that you have to accept these inputs and give out these outputs without explicit what can be called dynamic programming or greedy algorithms.
Now, one of the arguments that we use for digitization or for data-driven policy making is that data-driven policy making is fair and is very democratizing in nature. But is that really so? Is data truly fair and democratizing?
Sir, I do not think that it is democratizing, because I see wherever there are companies, there are competitors who are arguing, who are competing over the acquisition and or processing of data. I see that they have built huge monopolies, and there are startups who are trying to challenge, but surely cannot challenge them.
Forget about the private sector using data. I'm saying data-driven policy making by the government itself. Is that democratization? Is that truly democratizing in nature? The private sector is meant to manipulate data to their own percentage. We're talking about data-driven policy making in governance. Is that necessarily transparent and democratic?
So that it's not completely, though the open charter that open data charter that was published by Indian government in 2015, that made it the objective to make it transparent. But at the present state, for even for example, the Arogya Setu app controversy that happened. So in those cases, the transparency of how data is being used and where it is being used, it is not completely outright. The other example I can give of is the Vahan data monetization.
Vahan data monetization is not a democratization problem, it's a privacy problem, where the Ministry of Transport had sold vehicular and vehicular owner data to third-party companies. We are talking about decisions which are driven by data, right? Anyways, moving on. What is the difference between a mini marathon and a half marathon?
Sir, half marathon is 21 kilometers. And mini marathon is anything less than that. And that could be 3 kilometer, 5 kilometer, or 10 kilometers.
So if I walk from my office to my parking lot, will I also be performing a mini marathon?
Sir, it would depend upon the timing in which you run. If you take like 2 days to cover 10 kilometers, that will not be considered a marathon. But if you run it in 1 hour or 1 or 2 hours, that would be considered a mini marathon.
Okay, but there is no defined limit for a mini marathon, is it? That you have to do it in X number of hours or minutes or anything?
No, sir. It's mostly based on your own endurance and your own perception. Yes, self-assessment.
Okay. So you won medals in a self-assessment based sport.
So the medal giving is not based on self-assessment. Where I ran around 10 kilometers in 1 hour 17
mini marathon was a 10-kilometer run in which you won.
Participated, yes, sir.
Excellent, excellent. What are some of the learnings that you had at a physiological level, at a psychological level, at a physical level? What can you implement in life from what you have learned by running marathons? It's an incredible sport.
Yes, sir. So the biggest learning is of endurance, and marathon is all about endurance. Sprinting, if done, is more about what you have practiced in say last 1 year. But marathon, it's about endurance and your mental stamina of to keep carrying on even when you feel that your body cannot go any further, and you still keep pushing that 1 more kilometer, 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes. That is one thing that I feel is the learning even in most parts of our life, that is a learning that we take, even in case of UPSC civil services preparation.
My final question to you, Harsh, is this. Do you think we would have managed the pandemic crisis better if the subject of health was in the union list or the concurrent list? It is currently in the state list.
It's a stateless.
So,
Sir, there are multiple aspects of medical which can be considered to be in the union list as well. For example, if we consider higher education of medical institutions, that would come under the union list, or the medium level, in which case it could be considered in the concurrent list. The other would be, say, interstate movement of people, which is again in the union list. So medical, it's a very wide term, and the case in case of India, what we saw was there was a huge amount of discrepancy in how states were handling, because there was a huge amount of discrepancy in how severe the situation was. So I feel that the present situation of the health being in the state list is a very aptly justified, because the problems are local. It has to be tackled locally.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Pratyush.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Okay, so first of all, let me ask you, can you explain in 1 or 2 sentences how you fared?
So I think there was a lot of scope of improvement, especially on the questions of why I want to join and
Okay.
that area. But otherwise, I feel there could have been a lot of improvement.
Okay, so Harsh, first of all, let me say that you are good. There is no doubt. In fact, almost very good. You can be outstanding also if you slightly work in some of the areas which I'm going to just now tell you. So your delivery was very good. Some of the strengths which I'm going to point out to you, your delivery was very good. You were quite mentally alert, but your power of analyzing the questions or analytical skills and the critical powers of assimilation, you may slightly improve upon that. Before answering any question, first of all, think about it and then prepare an answer. And it should be in such an order that the most important part you should be able to tell in the first place. Then you can come to the less important and less important and so on. So slightly waiting and pausing and then coming out with answer would be slightly better. I thought that you are clear and otherwise logical in most of the questions. Your knowledge is good and you have a fairly good knowledge of current affairs. But since you have given your option as the first preference as Indian Foreign Service, probably you need to have a much greater knowledge of the international relations, okay? Because those questions may arise about relations of India with its neighbors. What are the burning issues? What are the different groups which are there, countries, groups, so which are there and so on. So these are some of the areas. And then of course, some other specific things. For example, some of the questions you were not able to take were, you know those questions that you may just go back and study. Now, one question which I thought you could have used to your advantage was good governance. Now, good governance, firstly, you started referring to the World Bank definition. It would always be a good thing to use your own language to explain a point. You see, that will give analytical power of assimilation and then coming out with answer, rather than using a definition which may appear to be, a mugged kind of a definition. And then there are 8 ingredients of good governance. And I think one ingredient which you mentioned was something like compassion, was it?
No, sir. I actually misplaced it. I remembered it as a mnemonic, and then the second was started
Compassion
with a
is
C.
not, yeah, compassion is
Yes,
not
sir.
one of the ingredients. You know, it is efficiency was correct. Then there is a transparency, rule of law, accountability, consensus building, participatory, you know, and and of course responsiveness. So these
Yes,
are
sir.
the ingredients. So you must you know, go through them slightly more carefully, and then of course then some of the arguments like which you gave about entering the civil service were quite lengthy. You see, one thing we would like to advise you, your answers are by and large correct, but sometimes you go give very lengthy answers. So the result is you lose a lot of good time, which you can utilize in answering other questions. So come to the point straight away. For example, in giving civil service, instead of giving any other, the initial things which you talked about, straight away you should have said these are the reasons why I want to this. Okay. And
Yes, sir.
one point was that the corporate culture which you have gone through, which you are accustomed to for quite some time, it is okay up to some certain extent, but don't use it too much in the civil services interview. Okay. So for example, saying that it was a great pleasure interacting with you, and those kind of things, yes, they are very good in corporate culture, but thank you, sir, once, and a smiling face, that is enough, you see. Okay. And
Okay, sir.
your reasoning for entering civil services, it should have a more cogent reasons. Then of course the ethical question which was asked, so I think probably you could have given a much better answer to that. And similarly, the question regarding the president power, you see, so that also you need to go back and study, find out the latest rulings, and find out how different presidents have performed over a period of time, in taking decisions on matters which have been referred to them by the Council of Ministers. So this is again one area where we would like you to. One more thing is, have a smiling face. Don't have a stone face, because that is going to convey the best, waves, very friendly waves from you to the panel. Because if you remain poker faced or you remain hard faced, it may not have that kind of effect which you want. But otherwise, I think now some
Sir,
of the
sir, if I can interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
On this, I have a question because this keeps going on through my mind. Sometimes when I'm listening very carefully to a question, I feel that I'm too intently focused on the listening the question, and my smile goes away. And in that case, it seems that I was stone faced. So is that okay while hearing the question, or should I try to be smiley even when listening to a question?
No, you can't. You don't have to smile at every 2 minutes. Smile
Yes,
once
sir.
in a while throughout your interview, which will last about 20 to 30 minutes. That is required. And face should be, the body language should be very friendly, rather than being, you have to be serious. There is no doubt about it. Interview is a very serious business. But at the same time, you should appear very, your outer demeanor should be such that it evokes a very friendly kind of, response. So that is important. So that is
Yes, sir.
okay. And lastly, some of the questions, for example, the whether health should be included in the central list rather than the state list. So probably you need to explain. You see, one thing generally I will say, whenever there is an issue which can go both ways, you must explain both pros and cons. So you must say that why, if health remains in the state list, these are the things, and if it goes to the central list, these are the advantages. So pros and cons must be explained. So probably this answer could have been much better. And similarly, satellite towns like Noida and Gurugram. And third was about why the names are changed and whether there is a justification for changing the names. Probably you will have to go back and slightly study, because this question may arise because Gurugram is, recent example where Haryana carried out that amendment, and Prayagraj and all those things. So these contentious issues, don't take any extreme views, take a balanced view. That's all. Okay.
Yes, sir.
You will do very well. There is no doubt about it. Just go back and study slightly more on these areas. Our best
Yes, sir.
wishes to you. Okay.
Yes, sir. Will do. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Yeah, you can do very well. Just prepare a little bit more.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.